We've been working on the Gunnison Copper Project on some studies that we think are going to add possibly up to $1 billion in additional revenue over the life of the project. And that's something these three different studies, for example, selling the gravel and the limestone overburden as a byproduct, or reducing our initial capital costs and our operating costs with an acid consumption reduction method that we're looking at.
All right, welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Craig Hallworth. He is the Chief Financial Officer and Senior Vice President for Gunnison Copper. And Craig, it's good to see you. How are you?
I'm great, Steve. So good to see you as well. And thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, well, the company out with some pretty significant news that you're going to the market to raise about $5 million for the company in order to really move your project forward. So let's start with the capital raise first, and just the reason why and the timing is right.
Well, we've been doing a lot of marketing. We've been talking to investors. We've been traveling across Canada, across the United States, like really getting the story out, right? How we pivoted the Gunnison, our flagship project, 550 million tons, 0.35% copper, makes about $500 million dollars per year in free cash flow at a $5 copper price. We've been really getting the story out about that. And just we've been hearing a lot of demand, a lot of investors saying, hey, I'd like to take a big position in the stock or add to my big position. And, when's that next private placement? And so there was just so much demand that we said, this is a great time to do it. And really, if you take a look around, it's a great time to be in mining in the United States. We'll be into production at our Johnson Camp mine and this by the end of this quarter. President Trump, he just actually said today that he's looking at a 50% tariff on foreign copper coming into the country. So whether it ends up at 50% or 25% or 10%, as a fully made in America story, Gunnison Copper, all that copper we're going to produce, 25 million pounds a year, all of that is going to benefit from any tariffs on foreign copper.
So it obviously puts you in a very unique position as a company. So talk to me a little bit about where you're going to deploy this capital, what it allows you to sort of, in essence, really speed up as far as work is concerned.
Yeah, let me answer that, Steve. But first, let me just tell you that the thing that's really exciting investors is that in the second half of 2025, we've really stacked this half of the year with catalysts. Investors told me they want to see progress and they want to see value added to the Gunnison project and they want to see Johnson Camp come into production. And that's what we're going to deliver in the second half of 2025. We've been working on the Gunnison Copper Project on some studies that we think are going to add possibly up to $1 billion in additional revenue over the life of the project. And that's something these three different studies, for example, selling the gravel and the limestone overburden as a byproduct, or reducing our initial capital costs and our operating costs with an acid consumption reduction method that we're looking at. And so those results are all going to come out in the next 3 to 4 months. And so that's why it's exciting to get into the stock today or add to your position today, because you're getting in right before all these big catalysts come out. With the Johnson Camp, going into production, everybody loves a mine restart, and we've had such positive support on that all around the state of Arizona and all around the country. And so we're really going to be building on that. Now, in terms of what are we going to use these funds for, we're looking for $5 million, and investors can know that we're going to be putting this money to work. We're going to be doing some additional add-on studies to this high-value plan. So on top of that $1 billion in revenue that we think we can add, we're going to be looking at adding some additional revenue and cutting some additional costs as well. We're also going to get started on our pre-feasibility study. That's the next level of study that's really going to take the engineering and the level of confidence in Gunnison as an open pit to the reserve level. And we're going to do permit amendments at the same time. And we're expecting all of that to be completed by the end of 2026. And to meet that timeline, we're going to get started on some of the long lead stuff now. We're going to start drilling and doing metallurgical testing, some column testing, and other associated activities. That's going to be the bulk, those two items of the money that we're raising. In addition to that, part of the money that we're raising is going to help fund our US head office G&A costs to the end of Q1 of 2027. So in our last raise in April, we went to the market and we funded the next 12 months of G&A expenses. That takes us to the end of March 2026. This additional funding is going to take us to the end of March 2027. And so investors can know that we are a very stable and well-supported company, that we can put those other dollars to work on advancing this project and value.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a very busy time in the next few months for sure. Craig, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to many more conversations as this fundraise continues.
Thank you so much, Steve.
All right, there's Craig Hallworth. He is the Chief Financial Officer and Executive Vice President of Gunnison Copper.